replacing Jeremy Bone, who many of you may know. In just a moment, I'll ask Nathan to give an overview of the season ticket offering we have this year, why we've got to this position that we're offering. But in the meantime, can I just ask everyone to put their microphones onto mute just to avoid any background noise? That would be appreciated. Once Nathan has from the questions we've had submitted, there's a couple of excuse me. There are a few questions that many people have asked, so I'll sort of guide. I'll put those questions to Nathan on your behalf, and then once we get through those, there's about 3 that sort of hopefully will cover those questions. Once we get through those, we'll sort of open up the floor. If you sort of raise your hand when you want to ask a question, I'll select one of you and we'll put it to Nathan. We'll take about half an hour today to go through this, so I appreciate you coming on board, as I say. But just to start, Nathan, could you give us an insight as to where we are with the season, what's coming up, and why we got to the position we got to with the season ticket package this year?
Thanks, Cameron. Appreciate the intro. First, I'd just like to say welcome to everyone. Thanks for making time in your day to talk to me. I wasn't expecting this many people, so I'm pleasantly surprised. I know how much Glasgow Warriors means to you, so thank you for making the time. I think to give you a bit of background, where we are looking ahead at the new season is we're currently planning for a start date in early October, so the first weekend in October. I'll confess to you, I have not myself seen sight of a fixture list yet, and I'm hoping to see that very, very soon. We have a challenge. Well, we have a couple of challenges. One, we all have a challenge. We know all about it. It's this pandemic that we're in. The further challenges as we've come out is that the pandemic is accelerated in South Africa. So they're in a different place than we are in terms of their curve. And the South African teams have said publicly that they're not going to be able to travel in 2020. So a big part of the reason for the delay on the fixture list is we're figuring out, or the league or Pro 14 are figuring out what's going to happen with the South African franchise situation, with those teams participating and when they can participate, etc. So a real challenge. I think the other thing I'd like to say is I've never experienced anything like this before in my life, and I'm guessing many of you are in a similar spot. So it is literally the situation's changing so rapidly. We're making it up as we go along in a way, and I don't say that completely facetiously, but again, Glasgow, further lockdown happening in Glasgow, or further restrictions, I'd say, coming in Glasgow recently. It is an ever-moving situation. I think we've taken the view that people have told us they just want to get back to some normal things. I know I certainly want to do a few normal things with my life and my family as well. And for me, rugby is one of those things that I really look forward to. And that's what a lot of people have told us. They look forward to getting back to some rugby. I think you just saw the reaction to the recent games that we've had to finish our season. And I felt very much like there was a feeling of we were starting to return to something normal. And I guess that's a bit of our purpose, to try to create something, a normal event once a week in your life, to be able to enjoy a game of rugby, enjoy supporting the Warriors as and when you can. So that's kind of at the core of what we're trying to do. When over the summer, we looked at what to do with regard to the season tickets and the games that were missed and the games that weren't played. We took a decision to go out and once we knew that the season was going to conclude with the 2 games against Edinburgh, we were able to go out to all of you as season ticket members and give you a few options. I was overwhelmed by the response we got from the season ticket members. Well over 90% of you told us that you were able to either take a credit for the games you missed and apply it to this year, or you contributed those funds to the club. And those funds are really important to keeping the club ticking over and helping us get through this. but also it's just really touching to see how much the club means to you. And I just wanted to say thank you for those of you that were able to do that. Also, there were a few people that took a refund, and again, those people told us, they just weren't able to. They wanted to, but they weren't able to. A number of us those people got in touch and said, "Look, I'm just not able to do this, but I really, admire the club and want to support the club." So we're very grateful and appreciative of that. We then we waited a little while before we put together, went out and talked about our season ticket package for the coming season. And we looked at about 10 different scenarios in planning. And what stuck in my mind the whole time was the number of conversations that I had with supporters where you told us, we just want to buy our season ticket. Nathan, we just want to buy our season ticket. That's what we want to get. And I know if you compare that to, say, a lot of football clubs, a lot of the football clubs went out quite early with their season ticket. They went out with a full season ticket, and they actually kind of went out and put people under pressure to have to decide. And we could see the anxiety that it would cause, because I think people over the years have come to really enjoy their season tickets with Glasgow Warriors. And you see them as yours. You see them as yours. Those are our seats to go watch the Warriors. And we understood that was by asking you to pay for a full season ticket when we weren't sure we were going to have all the games. That could put some of you in a real difficult situation. I mean, two things that you choose to maybe give up something that you really enjoy. So we decided not to do that. We looked at scenarios where we tried to incorporate a number of products, various additional products into the package. We looked at a subscription to Premier Sport and tried to lump that into the package. But in the end, we had some reservations about Premier Sport and how we could do that in a way that would be just seamless. And we didn't want to be fielding calls from people saying my TV reception is not good. And we really distilled it back to the core thing that people said they wanted was their season ticket. And so we came out with the 3-phase season ticket. And the first phase was to renew your seat. And we see that very much as a deposit. So we made a commitment in the summer that we would freeze the season ticket prices for the 2020-21 season. And we stand by that, absolutely stand by that. We do not want to take a single pound more than we took from you last year. The reality is we're probably going to take less for this year than we took last year, because I just don't think realistically we're going to be able to get you, host you at every single game. And likewise, some of you may not be able to make all those games, or may have various reasons why you're not able to make some of those initial games. So we wanted to give you, respect that and show we had some understanding that we've all got different circumstances at this time. So the core membership that you purchased will act as a deposit towards that season ticket price. So if you were a platinum season ticket member last year, you would have paid $396. For this year, after your deposit, if we're able to have you at every game, we don't want to take a penny more than $396 from you this year. So that's really important, and I think some of the feedback is maybe that wasn't made absolutely clear through some of the communication. So, I'm sorry that wasn't clear, but that's part of I think, talking to about, today. The other element was we wanted to enable you to secure your seat for this year, but also you secure your seat for next year. So that season ticket that you've got, entitled you to your seat last year, but to secure it again for this year, if it was a normal season, in normal circumstances, you'd always have to purchase your season ticket in order to have your seats. And so we felt that was a principle that was established and was fair. So the £55 is the principle that says you've made a commitment to your seat, your season ticket, you've got access to your seat this year, and you also have the right to have your seat next year. Another question that came, which is, let me speak about the 3 phases. So phase 1, you've committed the £55, you've got your seat for the season. Phase 2, hopefully very soon we get into phase 2 where we can have crowds back at games. so socially distanced crowds at games. And season ticket members are the very top of that priority list in terms of who gets access to the tickets. So you'll have access to the tickets. They'll be heavily discounted tickets. Do I know how we're going to choose who gets to come? No, I don't, because I don't know what the guidance is going to tell us. How, is it 1 meter? Is it 2 meters apart? We're waiting on guidance from government before we can determine that. And then we'll then have a method of offering those tickets out to people on a lottery basis or on a first come first. Well, I doubt it'll be a first come first served basis. It'll probably, once we know how many tickets we've got, we'll be able to go out to the supporter base and offer those to you in some sort of a fair as possible manner. And then you'll be able to buy those tickets at a discounted rate. And again, part of the reason you can buy them is because, or we've asked you to buy them, is because some people may choose not to come. At this stage, maybe it's for various reasons, or there could be circumstances as this situation changes. You may, come into contact with a situation and you can't come. So we're trying to be as fair and open about that process as we can, but I can't define that process to you because I don't know what criteria we're working to yet. It's still being determined for us by government. And then hopefully we get into phase 3, where we are then in a situation where we can offer you your seat for the remaining games. That will be packaged up. Again, the commitment is there that the package won't cost you more than your season ticket last year. And if we missed 5 games because we had 5 games behind closed doors, or there were 5 games of socially distanced, it'll be packaged appropriately. But it's difficult for us to work out every single variable. And so we've taken the approach that we'll wait and see where we get to with that. But it'll be packaged. You'll then have the opportunity to buy your seats for those remaining games. Now, if we get to option 3 and you decide for whatever reason, we've got 5 games left, and you're not able to, you don't wish to buy your season ticket, buy that package for the rest of the season, we will ask you to tell us yes or no. If you tell us no, we'll then be able to sell those seats on a match-by-match basis to other supporters. However, you will still retain your rights to renew your season ticket for the 21-22 season. That was another question that people have asked me. So once you've opted in at this initial stage, you've got the rights to renew for 21-22. Those are then your seats. The only thing we'd ask is if, for some of these games, once we're able to have full crowds, if you're not going to take them, you'd let us know and let us, allow us to sell them on to other supporters who might want to come to the games.
Thank you, Nathan. As I said before, there are a few questions that came up sort of repetitively in the submissions. The first one was around recruitment. Nathan, can you tell us a bit about, supporters are keen to hear just sort of where we are with recruitment? Obviously difficult situations again. Can you give a bit of context? What can you tell the supporters on that one?
Well, we did a lot of our recruitment early last year. Again, a lot of our good recruitment, in my opinion, is retaining your best players. And we did a lot of work on that early. So we retained people like Kyle Stain, Ratu Tangivi, Ali Price, Ryan Wilson, Peter Horn. So we did a lot of recruitment early on. Matt Fagerson, Fraser Brown. So we did a lot of that recruitment real on. What maybe people don't always see is retention costs money. When you do a good job, you do good work at your job, you want to get paid more for it. You want to raise, and rugby players are no different. So we did a lot of work early to retain the bulk of that squad. Unfortunately, we didn't retain everyone. We have a pretty strong track record of retaining the players we wanted to keep. But unfortunately, Johnny made a decision, and it wasn't a financial decision. It was driven by, I think he wanted to try something new and have a new experience. And then we looked at bringing in some new players. We felt that Danny Wilson, when he was appointed, felt straight away he wanted to strengthen up front. He wanted another quality tight head prop option. He felt that maybe we weren't getting as much rugby as we should have been getting from Siwahala Nuka, and we had an opportunity to sign Enrique Piretto, who played in the World Cup with Argentina, and scrummaged really well against us, or for Exeter against us at Scotstoun, if you remember. So we actually met Enrique after the game in my office and pretty much shook hands on a deal there. We then had the opportunity to bring back Richie Gray, and again, Danny felt from a set piece perspective, he would really add something to the squad. He runs the touchline and the line out with the size of him, but he's also got a reputation as a really strong set piece second row, scrummaging second row as well. So he's used Richie to really enhance the squad, enhance the forward pack. We've got a couple of interesting young players coming through, particularly in the back three. We've got Rufus McLean, who we'd signed last year we'd signed him to an academy year with a year of professional pro deal. So he graduated onto a professional deal. And he's a player that we're really excited about. And then Ollie Smith, who's still an academy player, but was I think Ultimate Rugby and another one of the rugby publications singled him out as the player of the under-20s Six Nations last year. He's a fullback, definitely a fullback, and a player we're looking forward to seeing on the park for us. And I would expect him to graduate from the academy onto a full pro deal during the season as well. There's a couple of gaps in that squad as well. We were looking at recruiting a fullback, but actually we've kind of ended up with the fullback we wanted, although it's a short-term deal. And just unfortunately, we had concluded some of those deals when the COVID crisis, the pandemic fell. And immediately a halt was put on all recruitment at that point, and we weren't able to complete a few things. But I'm really pleased we were able to get a deal in place for Glenn Bryce. He played really well for us last season. I think he's a player our coaches really believe in. Our coaches really fought for Glenn. They were impressed by what he gave us last year. And so that gives us a fullback, at least for the first half of the season. Hopefully we can extend Glenn beyond that. And the other position we looked at was standoff. I think it's quite right that most supporters will point out we do need an option at standoff, maybe after Adam Hastings. I love Peter Horn as a player, particularly as a 12, and he does a great job for us at standoff. But I think when he fills in there, but I think most folks, and certainly our coaches, wanted us to sign a standoff. But it's probably become the standoff has become the most expensive position in the market. They're now surpassing tight. It used to be tight head props. It's now standoffs, and they're tough to find. It's tough to find a good player and who's available and willing to come. And we were close on a couple of things. We had one player who would have been a great signing that unfortunately decided to stay at his club, the club where he grew up, for another 2 years. But we came very close there. And then unfortunately COVID hit, and we weren't able to complete that. But we do have some players there. We've got Brandon Thompson, who a year ago showed some real flashes of excitement and possibility. Unfortunately, he had a particularly bad day at the office against the Dragons, but earlier in the season. But I think he's put that behind him. We've done a lot of work with Brandon, and he's really impressing. And we've got Ross Thompson from the academy, and obviously Peter Horn also has played a lot of standoff for us and does a good job there. So, that circumstantially, if we could have added, we would have liked to have added someone at that position, but it just didn't happen, unfortunately. Or at least didn't happen yet.
Nathan, what assurances, when supporters are buying their products and putting their money into Glasgow Warriors, what assurances can you give, obviously the unique circumstance that Glasgow are owned by a bigger body, that money is staying with the club?
Yeah, that's a question that a lot of folks have asked me, and I think we should acknowledge it is unusual. It's unique that one organization owns two franchises. It's quite unique in sport. It does happen in Ireland as well to an extent, with the RFU own the 4 Irish provinces. So I can understand why people are asking that. But since I've been involved with Glasgow, my number one priority, in fact, all I'm focused on, is Glasgow Warriors. We have a P&L account that I manage on behalf of the club that includes all the costs of the club and all the revenue streams. and all those revenue streams come into that P&L account, and we manage that and do our best to try to get the most benefit for the club that we can possibly get. Sometimes that's within our playing group and retaining the best players. That's the primary focus because we're a rugby team. And I stand by, I think we have a very, very strong track record of retaining players, signing players, and also if you look at the number of players that come back to the club after they've been away, I think it speaks volumes for who we are and what we're about as a club. But likewise, some of that money is also used to enhance what we do as a club, whether that's support structures to behind the players and coaches in the medical area or analysis or strength and conditioning, or that's facilities for supporters or whatever that may be. We reinvest all that money in the club, and that's my number one focus is to put that support around our squad, which means people like yourselves, and keep you supporting this club. Make sure you're enjoying your experience and it adds some value to you as supporters, and it's something you look forward to doing. And then we leverage those resources as best as we possibly can to make our club as successful as it possibly can be.
Ideal, thank you, Nathan. I'm keen to open up the floor to people that want to ask questions. So as I say, if people just want to raise their hands, I know some of you can't have your screen on, so you can maybe drop a sort of something in the comments box, and I'll try and pick it up. I'll select sort of at random, so excuse me if you don't get selected. But I'll just give a few people now the chance, and we'll take a bit of time. So I think I've got Robert Conaway. If you want to kick us off.
So just a quick one regarding season tickets. Is there an opportunity this year to move your seat? Was normal like that? You could register if you wanted to move from the north stand to the main stand, or vice versa. Is that opportunity available?
We're just working through that now with the ticket office, and it's something we're asking. There were some reasons. There were some challenges to that this year. If I'm honest, I don't completely understand what they were, but that's something we're working through with the ticket office. So I hope to be able to come back to you next week. But if you're in that circumstance, if you want to drop me an email or Cameron an email, once the season ticket deadline closes, drop us an email and let us know what you're trying to do, and we'll do our best to help you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much.
I've got a question from Graham here. It says a question relating to the possibility of playing at Murrayfield to allow for increased crowds, if that's an option moving forward.
It's not something I'm particularly keen on. It's not something I'm keen on unless maybe, I guess maybe if we, one of the Edinburgh games, for example, if there was a compelling reason to play there, I guess that would be financial. So it's something, if the financial benefits were so compelling that it made it, a really compelling argument, and it meant we could enhance the club and take the club forward with the extra money, then it's something we would look at. I can honestly say it's not my first choice, given the feedback that we've had historically about the possibility of European quarterfinals and things like that being played at Murrayfield. We're the Glasgow Warriors. We should play our games in Glasgow. Having said that, we are going through a pandemic, and our ownership is going to report, 18 million pounds of lost revenue this year. So if playing one game, if beating Edinburgh at Murrayfield one time helps us put a dent in that and secure our squad for the future, then it's something we would look at.
We've got a raised hand from Jay McCowan. His screen's off, but I don't know if you can got audio.
Yeah, sure. So thanks very much, Nathan, for your time today. Firstly, I think it's been well documented that from a commercial side that the SP Energy Networks deal came to an end this season. I suppose that when you talk about the P&L within the club and for future stability, that's obviously a sponsorship and commercial revenue is a big income to the club. So my question was really around whether that has been replaced, and if not, what can fans do to help support the club financially through the next 12 months or so.
Jay, I lost some of your signal on your question, but I take it was about one SP Energy Networks. I'd say keep your eyes on the website next week is what I'd say about that. We've actually had a great response from our sponsors. Our sponsors have been truly outstanding through this, and we've got a lot of good news to come out on our sponsors. Some of them, quite rightly, are asking us not to say too much. They're not wanting a massive profile right now during this period. They don't necessarily want to make a big splash in terms of their spending their money on rugby, but our sponsors have been excellent getting behind the club. In terms of what you can do, encourage your fellow season ticket holders to stick with it, and folks to join Warrior Nation. If not, I think our primary focus on the business side is to keep it intact. So keep our sponsorship family intact and get to May 2021, hopefully through the crisis with almost or all of our sponsors or all of our sponsors intact. And likewise, keep this great, supporter base that we have intact as well, and keep you guys engaged and enjoying the club into May 2021, and hopefully when we return to some normalcy.
Thanks, Nathan.
I've got a question from Jennifer Miller and Stuart Roberts just around development of the stadium, development of the ground. Is there any update you can give there, Nathan?
We were in a pretty good place pre-COVID with the city council, and I think the city have had some big challenges recently, and so have we. So what we've said to the city is, and the city we've agreed to keep the conversation going and revisit those discussions when the time is right. Hopefully, the time is going to be right pretty soon, and that's about all I can tell you at this stage. We were close. I think everyone pre-COVID acknowledged that Glasgow Warriors and Scotstoun and what we've done in the city is a good news story for Glasgow, and there was a lot of warmth and a lot of support for getting a stadium development that would suit our needs moving forward. But at this page, quite rightly, those conversations about rugby stadiums were put on hold. It's more important things to precedence.
I see a hand up from Paul Kerr. I don't know if Paul, you want to ask your question?
Thanks. What it is, Nathan, we've lost a lot of quality in the back three in the last 18 months and lost Hoggy and DTH this summer. And we've obviously got a number of players in the 30-plus bracket in that back three. Is that going to become a real problem area of development over the next 18 months, or is there plans afoot to kind of refresh those stocks?
I'm sure Tommy's over 30. Lee Jones is at 30 as well. So sorry, I was trying to think who's
Nico
over 30.
As well.
And Nico's getting up there too. I think DTH. I love DTH, and he was a great servant for us. He was also 34 years old, and I think he did a great job for us. I don't have a negative word to say on DTH, but I do think things in sport, things change. We've got two good ones coming through in Ollie Smith and Rufus McLean. I think Danny has been really impressed by those two guys. He's also been quite impressed by Robbie Nairn, which is why he gave him a run off the bench against Edinburgh. Big, physical, and still quite young, still in his early 20s. So he's an interesting one. And we've got another young player in our academy to watch, whose name escapes me. It'll come to me in a minute. I can picture him. Ollie Melville, sorry. He's got a twin brother, Cameron. I was about to say Cameron Melville. Ollie Melville is coming through the academy, and he's a big, powerful winger, and he's going to be one to watch as well. So, I think it is probably a reloading period, a little bit of a reloading period in there. But I think there's some exciting players coming through. And let's not forget Kyle Stain. Back in March 2019, most people hadn't heard of Kyle Stain, and then he went on a run and started every game and started in the final, and then we renewed his deal. So he's still got a lot of rugby ahead of him for the club. And Ratu Tagive, his time is here. So he's been working hard and waiting, being patient for his opportunity, and now he's got an opportunity. So So I'm pretty optimistic about where we are in that position. But likewise, yeah, there's a bit of reloading going on too.
Thanks, Nathan.
A question around people have potentially sat next to, have been in front of, beside seats that have been empty through the season, Nathan, and are interested that they could be available for other family members. What's the best option if you're a season ticket holder now to get your family a seat, and the possibility of it being close to where you are?
I'd say, yeah, the best option is to get a Warrior Nation membership. I think you can, if your Warrior Nation membership comes up, then I think you can get two new season tickets. So if it's a family of 4, you may need to get a couple. But we've had over 1,000 subscribe to that, and they're always the next in to get tickets, whether those are season tickets or match tickets. So yeah, that's probably the best way.
One other question, and maybe we'll have this as the last one. Is there an opportunity for supporters and our businesses to partially sponsor academy younger players during these financially difficult times? Is that an option you've considered?
We've looked at player sponsorship, but not specifically for the academy. We've looked at it for main players, and for various reasons decided it wasn't the route we wanted to go down. To be honest, I think we can make more money doing what we're doing, if I'm blunt about it. But yeah, the academy players, that's an interesting one. But I'll take that one. I'll take that one away and have a chat with our commercial team and see if there's something we can do there. That's a good suggestion. Thank you. I see a few more questions on the chat. I can take a couple more if there's any more.
Yeah, no. Let's see if we can pick up ones in the chat. Is there anyone else on the floor that wants to sort of ask directly as well?
I got the chat. I'll just see if I can cover them off. Possibility of playing at Murrayfield, that one's covered. Is there a review of season ticket use at any point? I get this a lot, actually. People saying the seats next to me or the seats behind me are empty, and they're not being used. We've looked at this. We do track it. I just don't feel like we can tell people that, if they buy their seat, I'm not sure we can tell them they have to use it. I don't know. It's maybe, we do check on people now and again and say, we notice you haven't been to a few games. Is everything okay? But there is a point when I think people buy their seat, and whether they use it or not is down to them. This happens a lot with not club sponsors, but sometimes the central sponsors. We get this a lot from folks saying, can I buy the seats next to me? They're empty all the time. And then we find out they're seats we have to hold for the league and their sponsors. And that's just what you have to do, because we want the league to have sponsors. So was there a time when you couldn't use your ticket, the club could sell it and give the monies? We don't have any issue with people, if they can't use their season ticket, to give them to their neighbor or their uncle or whoever. We don't have an issue with that. Sometimes people do contact us and tell us to cancel the season ticket and put the seat on sale. We don't yet have a formal process for that. It's something we've looked into, but for a number of reasons we haven't done yet. But it's a project that we're still considering. So yeah, that's just one we're looking into. So I think that covers all the questions from the chat. Is there anyone else got a question before we wrap up? No? Okay. I thank you for your time. I appreciate you tuning in. And if there's anything else that comes up, I'm always available. I enjoy talking rugby with supporters. So if there is anything you want to engage with on, please feel free to get in touch. Happy to chat with you further.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Thank
Cheers.
You. Thanks.